A pregnant woman was about to go out, but was grabbed from behind by a criminal who held her neck and pulled her back. She anxiously shouted for help, originally wanted to plead with him to spare her because of her pregnancy, but the criminal remained unmoved still, inflicted cruel violence upon the woman, and finally threw punch after punch at her abdomen. When the police arrived, the woman had already stopped breathing, but the criminal calmly raised both hands with a smile still on his lips, before Long Eye, who was also a police officer, rushed in looking at my wife lying in a pool of blood. I was in agony. I angrily drew my gun about to take down the killer in front of me, but a colleague nearby immediately spoke up to stop me because the perpetrator had already confessed shooting him. Now would constitute murder. I was so angry I nearly broke down, and the bald man in front of me was none other than Victor, who I had arrested half a year ago for violent assault, but never expected on his first day. Out of prison he would take revenge on me, looking at the demon before me, but my identity as a police officer forced me to uphold justice and let the law judge him. After my wife's passing, I also fell into self-blame and regret, my mind filled with voices of revenge, so I shaved off my hair, then loaded all the bullets I was going to execute a crazy plan using file information. I found one of Victor's hideouts, then grabbed my gun and snuck in. At this time, the three underlings inside were completely unaware of the impending disaster. The next second I rushed into the house and began the massacre. What I wanted to do was fight violence with violence at this time. My colleague Billy also arrived, but facing my questioning, I didn't give any explanation, just held my head in my hands and knelt on the ground as expected. I was sentenced to prison for intentional homicide, but this was exactly what I wanted, because Victor, who took my wife's life, was imprisoned in this very prison. Only by getting inside could I execute my revenge plan, but never expected just after arriving at the prison, I was called to the warden's office. Facing my little schemes, the warden clearly knew my purpose for coming in, so he advised me not to cause trouble and even bluntly said Victor was now his man. If anything unexpected happened, no matter who it was, he wouldn't let them off. Victor also received news of my imprisonment, but he wasn't panicked at all, because in this prison he was the boss. He walked right up to me, then snatched my food and said viciously, "This is my territory. Wash your neck and wait." Sure enough, as he said, the next day I was ambushed by several people in the laundry room. Although my skills were decent, I couldn't handle the repeated attacks from multiple people and was eventually knocked down due to exhaustion. One person nearby even picked up a knife from the ground about to pierce my neck. Fortunately, the guard appeared in time. Several prisoners fled in panic and I thus escaped disaster. A few days later, while exercising outside, I chatted with a guard. I learned from him the reason Victor was so arrogant here was because he had reached some kind of agreement with the warden, doing some shady business. He used his powerful network to help the warden gain profits, which is why the warden protected his safety. After hearing this, I said nothing more, because even if his power reached the heavens, it couldn't stop my determination to avenge my wife. After returning to my cell, I began working on my revenge plan. I took out a pen from under the bed, then removed the ink cartridge and sharpened the outer shell into a sharp shape, and the first target would be one of those who had attacked me in the laundry room.